kids have grown up. What am I going to do? Still feeling good, still feeling healthy, still feel like writing, still feel like singing. And I came out in 2007, hoping to God that I can get all this, get back on the road before I'm 60. And I have.
Billy Ocean had hits, big ones. He was on the stages around the world, and for a while it felt like nothing could stop him, but then he vanished. Some say the music changed, others think the industry changed on him. Was it race or market trends or something deeper? This is the story of the rise, reign, and quiet disappearance of Billy Ocean, the rise they do not talk about. In the 1980s, Billy Ocean was one of the most successful recording artists in the world. He reached #1 on charts in the United States, the United Kingdom, and across Europe. His singles, like Caribbean Queen, Suddenly, and Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car, sold millions and became radio staples. His smooth, emotional voice and polished image fit perfectly into the golden age of MTV.
And the winner is...
Billy Ocean.
Thank you.
He earned a Grammy Award, multiple platinum albums, and toured internationally. By every commercial standard, Billy Ocean was a major pop star. Yet his name is often missing from conversations about the biggest stars of that decade. Born Leslie Sebastian Charles in Trinidad and Tobago, Ocean moved to the United Kingdom at a young age. He began recording music in the 1970s, navigating a British music industry that was not very welcoming to black artists. Despite his talent and radio-friendly sound, it took him years to find mainstream success. That breakthrough came in 1984 with the album Suddenly, which went multi-platinum. Caribbean Queen earned him a Grammy, and for the next several years, he kept releasing hits and touring the world. He worked with top producers and was a rare example of a black British artist achieving global pop stardom.
So another really significant record for you is Caribbean Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And you won the Grammy for Best Male R&B Vocal.
That's right.
You were the first British person to win that vocal as well, or win that Grammy.
Still, something was off. Ocean's visibility did not match his success. Other artists with similar achievements, especially white acts, seemed to be celebrated more often and remembered more clearly. Even Ocean has hinted in interviews that he always felt the need to prove himself, particularly in the British market. His decision to avoid controversy and maintain a low profile may have played a role, but it does not fully explain why his name faded so quickly, even as the hits remained. This was not unique to him. Many black British artists in that era faced similar barriers. They were often categorized in ways that limited their exposure or pushed to the margins once the initial excitement faded. In Billy Ocean's case, there were few follow-up stories, few retrospective documentaries, and very little celebration of his legacy in mainstream British media. Over time, it became clear that the system favored certain artists and images. The music industry was controlled by gatekeepers, label executives, radio programmers, and television producers, who decided which artists were promoted and preserved in public memory. These decisions were not always based on talent or success alone. Billy Ocean, to his credit, focused on making music and staying out of industry politics, but even he acknowledged in interviews that he was aware of how the business worked. His story highlights a deeper issue. Artists of color can break records and win awards, yet still be quietly excluded from long-term cultural recognition. The question is not whether Billy Ocean was talented, it is whether the industry ever truly intended to keep his name in the spotlight after the hits stopped charting. Before the world knew him as Billy Ocean, he was Leslie Sebastian Charles, a name that reflected his Trinidadian roots, but early in his career, Charles changed it. The move was not just about branding, it was a response to an industry that often encouraged non-white artists to sound more universal, which in practice often meant less ethnic or less Caribbean. The name Billy Ocean sounded catchy. It rolled off the tongue easily and did not immediately signal his heritage. For some, that kind of name change might seem harmless, a simple rebrand to fit the pop market, but for many Black and Caribbean artists in Britain, there was often unspoken pressure to make themselves more palatable to wider, usually white audiences. At the time, the British music industry was still finding its way with diversity. Artists with African or Caribbean names were often told that such names might limit their appeal. And so, Leslie Charles became Billy Ocean, just as other black artists also chose or were advised to adjust their names or images. To be clear, Billy Ocean himself has not framed this decision as anything more than a strategic choice. He has rarely spoken publicly about feeling pressured to do so, but the pattern across the industry was not a coincidence. It raises a broader issue about representation. How many artists felt they needed to change part of themselves just to be accepted? Even decades later, some fans express mixed feelings. They celebrate Billy Ocean's success, but also wonder how much of himself he had to suppress in order to climb the charts. The story behind the name may be a small part of his journey, but it points to a much larger conversation about identity, perception, and what it takes to make it in the industry. And then he was gone.
I've changed. I became Rasta, I became vegetarian, I got more involved in the doctrine, Bob Marley, the whole thing changed. I even stopped making music for a while.
By the early 1990s, Billy Ocean had almost completely disappeared from the mainstream music scene. He released fewer albums, his songs no longer dominated the airwaves, and his name stopped appearing in the headlines. To casual fans, it looked like he simply walked away, but many have wondered, did the music industry quietly push him out? There is no confirmed evidence of a deliberate blacklisting. However, Billy himself has spoken about stepping back to focus on his family. After years of touring and promoting music, he wanted to spend time with his children. That decision is entirely understandable, but others believe the full picture is more complicated. In an industry that is notoriously youth-focused, older artists, especially black artists, often find themselves receiving less support once they are past a certain age. Radio play becomes harder to secure. Labels shift their attention to newer acts. And while white pop and rock legends are frequently celebrated for their longevity, black artists often face a steeper climb to remain relevant. Billy Ocean's retreat from the spotlight has led to speculation that the industry did not provide the same long-term backing that other major stars received. Some have pointed out that artists with smaller catalogs or fewer global hits continue to receive consistent media attention and touring support, while Ocean seemed to fade into the background. To be fair, he has since returned to music, touring in recent years and even releasing new material. His fan base remains loyal, but the question lingers, did he step away entirely on his own terms? Or was there a quiet shift in industry support that made it harder for him to stay? Whether it was a personal decision, a systemic issue, or both, Billy Ocean's sudden exit from the top of the charts remains one of the most puzzling moments in British pop music. It raises broader questions about how the industry treats aging artists, and whether race and genre have a role in determining who gets to stay in the spotlight and who does not. To understand Billy Ocean's sudden drop in visibility, it helps to look at the larger picture. The music industry in the late 1980s and early 1990s was changing fast. New genres were taking over. Hip-hop was becoming a dominant force in the United States. In the United Kingdom, electronic dance music and Britpop began to shape the charts. The polished, soulful pop that Billy Ocean was known for began to feel out of place in a scene that was shifting toward younger, edgier sounds. Record labels were quick to chase these new trends. Artists who had delivered huge hits just a few years earlier were suddenly considered outdated. This was not unique to Billy Ocean. Many of his peers also saw their radio play dry up. However, what makes his case stand out is how sharply and how completely his presence seemed to vanish. In interviews over the years, Billy Ocean has remained respectful about the industry. He has mentioned that he chose to focus on raising his family. That explanation makes sense on a personal level. After years of travel and performance, many artists want to step back and live a quieter life. However, stepping away and being erased are not the same thing. Some insiders believe that Billy Ocean was not given the same level of ongoing support that other artists received. Despite his global success, some music historians argue that the industry did not fully embrace his legacy. His hits rarely show up on major award show retrospectives. He is not often included in documentaries or tribute shows about 1980s pop. This lack of recognition raises difficult questions. Was it simply a case of shifting trends, or did the industry undervalue his contribution? It is not uncommon for black artists, especially those from outside the United States, to be celebrated while they are topping charts, then quietly left behind once the spotlight moves. In Billy Ocean's case, it is hard to ignore how quickly that shift happened. Still, his music has endured. Songs like Suddenly and There'll Be Sad Songs continue to appear on romantic playlists and old-school radio stations. His fan base remains loyal, even if the broader music world has often overlooked him in recent years. The story of Billy Ocean's fall from the mainstream is not just about one artist, it reflects a broader pattern in the entertainment industry. Popularity does not always guarantee longevity, And even major success does not always protect an artist from being forgotten. After more than a decade away from the spotlight, Billy Ocean quietly began to reappear. In the mid-2000s, he returned to touring. He began performing across Europe, especially in the United Kingdom and Germany, where his fan base had remained strong. These shows were not promoted on major networks. There were no interviews on late-night television or big features in music magazines, but those who came to see him, whether in small theaters or outdoor festivals, left knowing that his voice had lost none of its power. In 2009, he received a long overdue recognition. The Queen of England awarded him the title of Member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, for his contributions to music. For many fans, this moment felt like a quiet victory. He had never stopped being a great artist, but now the world was at least acknowledging the impact of what he had done. Despite this honor, the mainstream media still did not embrace him. His later albums, including Because I Love You and One World, were released with very little attention. They featured smooth melodies, lyrics about love, peace, and unity, and a mature sound that reflected his life experience. But they did not trend. They did not spark viral moments. They were received warmly by fans, but ignored by the industry. This raises a deeper question. What does success look like when fame fades? For Billy Ocean, success seems to have taken a quieter shape. He continues to perform, he records new music, he spends time with his family, and he does so with a grace that is rare in an industry obsessed with youth and reinvention. In many ways, his story is not about a fall, it is about a choice. He walked away from the machine that made him famous, and when he returned, it was not to chase approval but to reconnect with the music itself. Billy Ocean was never just a hit maker. He was a bridge between cultures, a voice that could move across soul, pop, reggae, and R&B with ease. His songs helped define a decade. They played at weddings, on long drives, in dorm rooms, and dance halls. They were not just background music, they were part of people's lives.
What can I say? This is very touching for me. I find it easier to sing than to give a speech.
But when the spotlight turned away, so did the industry. It did not matter that he had sold millions of records. It did not matter that he had broken barriers as a black artist from Trinidad and Tobago who made it big in both the United Kingdom and the United States. Like many artists before and after him, Billy Ocean learned that success in music can be powerful, but also temporary. Today, he stands as a reminder of what it means to stay true to your craft. His voice still carries weight. His performances still move people, and while awards and media coverage may have faded, his influence has not. Billy Ocean may not be at the center of pop culture anymore, but in the hearts of those who remember and those just discovering his music, he never left. That will be all for now. Like, share, and comment. Goodbye.